Well, hello and welcome to Tough Talk in Transitions with me, your host, Colleen Godfrey. I started this podcast really because of the last 10 years of my life of caretaking my mother and then my partner getting sick with cancer and dying. My progression through both illnesses and what I've learned is something that no one's teaching you. You're going to have to dig through, learn. It's trial and error. So I started talking about it and thought, well, maybe I have something to offer some of you out there that might be going through this. So today I'm going to introduce my friend Laura Amanda Kelly, who is the author of a new book called Growing Through Grief. She's an ontologist. And I just screwed that up. She's going to fix it. Empowerment and spiritual coach. So we're going to talk a little bit about why she wrote this book and about grief and how it impacts all of us, because it does. So please talk about it. I'm very excited about this book. I think it's going to be fabulous.
Oh, Colleen, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun that we're doing this. And I'm so glad that you're doing this because the word needs to be out there in the world about transitioning and grief and, all the things. And, I know you very well and you've gone through so much and very strong woman. You're a very strong woman. So thank you for having me on today.
You're welcome. I'm thrilled that you're here, that we can talk about this because I think it's just such a process, right? And being in real estate with, for 35 years now, watching people my age, boomer, right? Transition, people are dying. They have Alzheimer's. I've lost friends to Alzheimer's. I mean, listen, it's not easy. And if you're in the sandwich generation, you've got your own kids and your parents, it's hard. For me, it was trying to, run a business, deal with her, deal with him, take care of the dogs. It's tough. And getting older doesn't make it any easier either. The older you get, the harder it gets because you're more tired, you're frazzled and you're going in so many directions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I love the work that you're doing and really excited that you started this podcast because I think it's going to be really beneficial for so many people out there because they need to hear your voice. And for those of you who don't know what ontological means, when people see that on my profile, they're like, what is an ontological coach? And so what it is it's the study of being, not doing. So what I help people with is, especially with grief, you can't transform anything in your life unless you can be with it. So I hold people through the transitioning when they're going through the grieving process to be with it because we have to feel it. We have to move the emotions through. Not just, here's a tool for you. So I hold them in the space to help them process emotions. So that's
what I think is really important on that too, is that people assume that the 5 stages go according to plan. And I think it's, for me, when my brother died, when I was 26, almost 27, and he was 25, I would tell you that I probably was so deep in denial that I probably didn't even start experiencing any of the grief for probably 10 years. It was too intense, it was too encompassing, right? I mean, you have it and then you're able, for me, I was able to bury it, but that's so destructive.
Yes. Yeah. And it can really, when people go through such a big loss in their life too, like what I see is it's so difficult at the beginning that they try to not think about it. But the longer the time that goes by, it starts to affect your body, your health, everything. So you have to process emotions. And it's so, I know for myself, I was in shock when my mother passed away when I was 24. And this is why I do what I do now, because that was such a pivotal moment in my life. And I had to get help. And I was looking for people to help me. How can I do this? And I just felt all on my own. And I don't want others to feel like that. So that's why I wrote the book. And I actually wrote the book 8 years ago. And I was too afraid to put it out there in the world. And now I'm ready. And I'm writing a second part of the book, actually talking about women seeing their worth. Because sometimes there's just so much, no matter what in life, you're always going to go through grief. There's always going to be something, whether it's a loss of a loved one, a loss of
Yeah.
career, your like a relationship,
Oh,
health,
business, a pet, any of it. Absolutely.
business. I mean, there's always going to be something. So that's why it's so important that we talk about this stuff, because it can really affect you, if you don't deal with it.
And also, there are people that just are so uncomfortable dealing with grief, right? They don't know how to approach it. They don't know how to say, oh, I'm sorry. And then that's supposed to be good enough. And then you're supposed to have moved on. Well, while your life is moving on, and I don't know if you found this with your mother, but I found this with my brother, is that, in the beginning, because it was such a shock and it was, a lethal arrhythmia, no warning, nothing, right? So after the funeral and after, a couple of weeks, your life has moved on, right? And yours is just really beginning, right? You're like, for me with Michael, we were together, and I mean, I didn't know life without him until he died. Then it was my life without him, right? So it was my first birthday without him. It was the
Right.
first Christmas without him, right? So my life became divided into two distinct lives: life before Michael and life after Michael, right?
Mm.
Because before him, we shared all the same memories. After him, it's me on my own. And, I mean, we're going to be 39 years in April that he's been gone. I'll be starting 40 years without him. Almost double the time that he was on this earth. Sometimes I have to go get his picture because I'm like, my God, I was even here. Like, you start doing that stuff, or you just start doubting. But what always amazed me was how people, even my mother, even her own sisters, were just like, "Why aren't you over it yet?" Yeah, because you know what? You get over something like that so easily. So people's perception of grief and how they deal with it, sometimes that's why you do what I did, right? You bury it and then you become self-destructive while doing it.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know
No.
if you found that.
Well, no, and yeah, like my mom's death date was January 9th of this, and it's been 14 years,
Yeah,
and I
those
still think of
anniversaries,
her
right?
on that day, and grief, I hate when people say, and I'm sorry, this is my opinion, but people say time heals all wounds.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I believe in that. And I believe that grief will always stay with you, but you have like an opportunity to look at life and through a different lens, if you do work on yourself, and you make the decision to grow from it. Because I know with
Well,
my
that's part
mom,
of it, right?
pardon?
Oh, and that's part of it, the growth. Can you learn to grow through it?
Absolutely. Well, I made the promise to my mom on her deathbed, and because I didn't want her to be in palliative care or anything, so I had her at the house, and I was her primary caregiver for six
That's
months
beautiful.
while she was
Yes.
like just losing all the weight and everything. And I told her, I gave her permission the night before she passed, and I said, "Mom, I love you." I said, I promise you that I'm going to be okay, and I will live my life on purpose and in purpose. And I give you my permission to go, because I could see how much pain she was in. And
Yeah.
your husband went through the same kind of cancer,
Oh, yeah.
pancreatic, right?
Cancer's brutal. Well, actually, his was stage 4 bile duct when they found it.
Oh,
So,
right. Okay.
you know what I mean? 8% of the population gets bile duct. It's very aggressive and it's very rare. So for
Yeah.
him, he had that whole Whipple procedure. I mean, it's fucking brutal. I mean, they remove half your stomach, your gallbladder, half your pancreas. So basically, you have to learn how to eat again because the bile ducts come out, and that's how you digest your food. I mean, it's just all of it. The whole digestive system gets thrown off, and it's massive surgery. I mean, he was in surgery for 6 hours, and they had him up that night. But then what happened, and can happen, is because they have to redo the lymphatic system, it can build up and then the drains. I would tell you that he survived the surgery better than he did the drains. Having to have those put in, that really threw him way back. Threw him so far back that he lost so much weight that they almost couldn't do the chemo. Till I finally said to the oncologist, it's spreading, just fuck it. If it's going to kill him, it's going to kill him one way or the other. He's going at this point, just give him the pills. The day we went to do the pills, they took his blood, found out it had already moved to his liver, and that was the end of the pills. And then it was trial after trial after trial until there was no more. And you know what? I would say this. It, it's a personal choice, right? Stage 4. But given the treatment, sometimes there's no life. I mean, in the total of the 18 months it took him from start to finish, I think he spent almost over 40 days in the hospital, but at different periods. 5 days here, 6 days here, 9 days here. The immunotherapy shut down his kidneys. This made him sick. That, you know what I mean? They interacted. It was get him back in the hospital, get him out. I told you, he did that Fluflox, that final chemotherapy that will almost kill you. Right before July 4th, 2024. And it did basically almost kill him. But his will to live was incredible. I mean, he did whatever he could. He went through hell and back. And, I think he had one period of November 2023 where he actually went back to work and he felt good. For the most part,
Yeah.
it was sad to watch. Like I told you, we went through the whole palliative care and hospice, and for us, hospice wasn't really a good fit. But his, and my mantra with him throughout it all was as normal as possible for as long as possible, as normal as possible for as long as possible, because that kept it from being so fatalistic.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
I thought anyway. That's what we tried.
So hard. I know. Like very difficult to go through that stuff.
Well, yeah,
And
and here we are.
I mean, I haven't lost a spouse, so I don't, that's a total different, I think, level of grief in a lot of ways. But
I don't
yeah,
know. When you see somebody so sick, it's like, when it's going to be inevitable. It was more peaceful that he finally went because he went in his sleep. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't like days on end in a coma, not knowing what was going on. He was just really tired, and then he was gone. So lucky, quite honestly. I mean,
give him permission to go, or he just went.
no, it really was just a conversation of, do what you have to do, is what I said. Because he wasn't
Okay.
here. He had gone home. And I just said, do what you have to do.
Mm.
But I knew he was going. But as you know, right? The whole body process is amazing how the body gets itself ready for death. When I took that end of life transition course through the Death Doula Institute, which I did when he was diagnosed, which is why I've got this whole transition thing, because that's what it's all about, helping people transition. Mine isn't to help you transition into death. Mine is to help you transition prior, selling your home, helping you deal with things like that, because I understand. And what also I found out at Mass General through what they all told me was how many people go through this and nobody goes with them. I was at all his appointments. I followed up with all his treatment. I could read his CAT scans. I could understand his meds. I knew what to do and how to get him there, like I have with my mother, because I've been doing it for almost 11 years now, right? So you learn. It's not, you got to learn. If you don't know what's going on, then they don't know what's going on. And, when they're dealing with it, are they really listening?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's kind of like you're taking care of a child in a sense too,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well,
Like,
they're scared. Everybody's afraid to die, right?
well, I
For the most
remember
part.
my mom being like, she said, you get brought into the world in diapers, and then you leave the world in
And
diapers.
diapers, literally. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was like it's so hard. I couldn't like because she was such a strong woman, and as like as a person, you feel like when you like lose that control, it's so hard. It's so hard on them going through it. So it's just being the best support that you can be. Yeah.
Oh, I know. He was so disgusted at times with himself. And I would say, what are you going to do? Just, it's not you, the illness. Like,
Yeah.
cancer sucks, right? You see, everybody says cancer sucks. Yes, it does, but it's
Mm,
everywhere. And I don't know
yeah.
anybody who doesn't know somebody who doesn't have it or hasn't had it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. And yeah, after my mom passed away, I dove into like personal development because I knew I needed to heal myself. And I actually flew to India and I was there for 3 weeks. And I learned that there's only two states of being. There is a suffering state and a beautiful state. So how long do you want to actually live in the suffering state of being? So it's learning how to bring yourself back into the now, into the present moment, because we're either thinking about the past or we're worried about the future. And the only time we're
Yes.
actually in a beautiful state is in the now. And I asked my mentor in India, and I said, well, how often do you go into the suffering state? And he started laughing. He's an Indian man. And he said, he's like, I fall into the suffering state all the time. He's like, but I know how to bring myself back into the beautiful state quicker than a lot of people. And that's why I teach this work. And so that was like a huge wake up call for me because I recognized that in my life, I was living in the past, just always like thinking of my mom. And, I've lost my best friend. Like she was literally my best friend. Like we talked like, I don't know, multiple times per day. My favorite time was hanging out with her. And then when she was gone, I felt like I lost my identity in a sense. And I actually started to be like my mom because I didn't want to forget her. So I started driving her car. I started wearing her clothes. I started
Mhm.
kind of like acting like her. And then I was like, all of a sudden, I had like this wake up call, and I was like, who is Laura Kelly? Like, who am I? And so I started to do this inner work on myself, and then I found who I was, and it was like really interesting
Well,
because
and I think
yeah.
that's the true, the inner work. I don't think there's enough help with grief.
Mm-mm.
I don't think there's enough counselors up there. I think people think hospice is the end all be all. It's not. Palliative care. I mean, I think people, I know Mass General, right, he had phenomenal care at Mass General until the palliative care. And they were just kind of like behind, right? But they're
Mm-mm.
overwhelmed because they have so many people dealing with it. And you know, I don't know how many people work in palliative care. I don't think there was, I know that they were adding on, but I think maybe 5 or 6. So when you probably have hundreds of people being treated for cancer, which I know you do because when I've been in and out of there, I saw it. But and how many of those are going to live, right? What is it going to be, 55%? If it's a good percentage, I mean,
Mm-mm.
in stages, whether it's been once, twice, 3 times, and they've had it. Has it been reoccurring? Are they still having? I don't know. It was just crazy. It was always so busy. But
Mm-mm.
palliative care is not easy either. It's not an end all be all. You have to take responsibility on some of it for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, yeah, it's
Um,
very depressing, palliative care. I don't like it at all. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, it never ends. I think that we just learn how to deal with it ourselves, and we can actually be, as you know, Colleen, like you've gone through so much grief yourself. Like you've made that decision. Like I'm not giving up. Like I'm going to help people with this, and this is why you're doing the work that you're doing today, and it's so needed.
So, it's really funny, right? I've been watching all these people die at like 76, 75, 74, 78. Here I am. I'm going to be 66 and I'm starting these businesses. And I'm like, am I out of my fucking mind? Like, am I assuming that I'm going to live another 30 years? And the answer to that is yeah, I have to.
Yeah, exactly. I don't believe in retirement myself.
No, I don't either. My
We
father did it
all
way too young.
we all need a purpose in life. And if I had to have a surgery done, well, a few times, but the most recent one was about 2.5 years ago, and I couldn't work for 6 months. And I was like just lying in bed, and I was like, what am I doing? Like I felt like I had no purpose. And I love what I do as a coach. Like I love talking to people every single day and making a difference and making an impact. And at the end of the day, I feel like I'm full because I've helped somebody, you know?
Listen, I plan on dying at 90 behind the wheel of my Lexus, which I'll probably still have because I paid so much for it. On my way to an appointment. Bam, see ya. And that'll be
Oh,
fine as long as the dog's not in the car. But let's talk a little bit about pre-planning. Did your mother pre-plan her stuff, her
no,
funeral, any of that? No, huh?
nothing. Actually, that's a really good question. We had it that she was going to be so my mom had breast cancer twice when I was younger. So I was 13 when she had the first one, and then no, sorry, I was 6 when she had the first one, and then 13 the second one. And then she got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I remember driving home from the hospital with her that day, and her oncologist, like, they couldn't find where the cancer, like, because they knew that she had lesions in her liver, but they didn't know where the primary cancer was. And I remember driving on the 401 in Toronto, and I get a call on my car, and we answered it. And she's like, Brenda, are you in a good place right now? And I'm like driving, like with a ton of traffic. And she's like, yes, tell me what's going on. And she said, we found the primary. You have pancreatic cancer. You have 3 to 6 months to live.
On the phone?
On like while I'm driving on the highway. And I remember driving back to our house, which was on the lake in Muskoka area. And she opened up a bottle of wine and she's like, "What are we going to do, honey?" And I said, "Well, what do you want to do, Mom?" And she said, "Well, I'm not giving up, but I'm not doing chemo or radiation because I don't believe in it." And so we went and opted into the Gershon therapy, which was in Tijuana, Mexico. That's where it's based out of. So it's like an all natural um, therapy. And so I went with her. We went there for 2 weeks. And it was all about 13 fresh juices a day, coffee enemas, vitamins, rest relaxation, ozone therapy, like all of that. So I was trained in that therapy. So after the 2 weeks, we went back home and I got that juice around and I was juicing every hour on the hour. And we closed down half the house so we could use it as a refrigerator for all of these organic vegetables. My hands were orange from scrubbing
Oh, yeah.
carrots. Like, I'm not even kidding, like 30 pounds of carrots. I was scrubbing and all the other things, and we were doing it, and it was actually working. We would send in like tests to her oncologist, and she's like, "Well, Brenda, the cancer's leaving your body." But then my mom just couldn't keep the juices down anymore, and so it
No, of
was
course
just
not.
like, I mean, it's a death sentence, pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you, he did all that experimental therapy, right? I mean, they were all tests. And it was just, I mean, at one point when he did the Fluflox, the last chemo, and they told him it could kill him, he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Just so full of poison now anyway. And all this is to see if it can help somebody else, because none of this is going to help you at
Yeah,
this point. But if you want to do it, do it. You know the risk." And he did
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well,
But
and yeah, and I mean, so she just, we knew, like, but I couldn't accept that she was dying. It was like I was fighting for her life, like every day. Like I was doing whatever I could to help her. And then it was like 2 weeks before I finally accepted it. And I said, my mom's going to die. And I just asked her, like, what she wanted me to do. And she was just like, honestly, she's like, "Laura, I don't want a funeral." She said, "I want you to celebrate my life and I want everyone to be there with a glass up to cheers to life and celebrate." And so after she passed away on January 9th of 2012, I flew to Mexico and I stayed here for a few months just to decompress and everything. And then I went home and I hosted just like a celebration of life for her friends and for our friends and my friends. And that's what I did. And then, like, she was cremated. So I didn't let go of her ashes until I think 2016. That was hard for me. I wanted to keep them on the mantle and just see them and have her there. But then it was time to let her go. So I put her in the lake where she loved, in the Muskoka area. And here in Mexico, in Yalapa, where she loved as well.
yeah,
So
and so she's happy.
I think
Oh,
so.
or you want to believe it anyway, right?
Well,
You think
I'm a
so?
very spiritual person, as you know, Colleen. And so when my mom passed away, I always asked for a rainbow because I felt like I didn't know, like whenever I like had a question, because I went to my mom for everything. And I was just like, I always went like, "Mom, what do you think about this? Should I do this? Is this the right decision?" I felt like I couldn't make my own decisions. So I asked and I said, "I need a sign." And so I started to get rainbows all the time. And so rainbows would always show up in my life. And whenever I see a rainbow, whether it's in the sky or on a little kid's backpack or whatever, it's just like makes me
A reminder.
feel, it's a reminder that she's still there in
Yes.
spirit. Yeah. Did you ever get a
So
sign or anything like that?
do I no, not from him, from my brother, yes.
Mm.
Yeah, my brother, yes. In different ways, yeah. My brother most definitely. But not him. I mean, actually I could. I don't know. I never really asked him because I don't know. We never really talked about that. It was just well, Michael and I never talked about it because he was dead when I found him, but that was different. I never said, "Oh, watch out over me" or whatever. I'm sure he is though. I mean, yeah, really, I've been, no, I haven't been looking for any signs from him. Isn't that funny?
Mm.
Not at all.
Well, I
Why did you
remember
think about that?
after my mom passed away too, I was sleeping in her bed and I remember opening up the bedside drawer and I found a book, and it was called Talking to Heaven by James Van Praagh.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my mom actually took the time to highlight certain things and make notes in that book. And it was like she was telling me that I can't remember what it said. It said something like, we're not here in the human form, but we're always there with you spiritually, or something like that. I can't remember
Oh, well, you know what
exactly.
they say. We're just spiritual beings having a
Human
human
experience.
experience. Yeah, that's what they
Exactly.
say. That's what they, which is
Yeah.
interesting, right? Because most
Mhm.
people think they're human and that they're human for us when they're really not. They're spiritual first, as we know, as what Karen talks about as part of the work that we do is to engage with the spirit. So talk about that. Talk about your until how do I say that word? Until I would prefer to say metaphysics, but
Ontological. Ontological. Yeah. So when I first got started on this journey, so what happened was, so I lost my mom. Well, first I lost my dad at 2.5. So I grew up without a father. And so my mom brought me up all on her own. I lost my aunt to ovarian cancer, my grandfather to breast cancer. Um,
your
I,
grandfather,
my grandfather had breast cancer.
was it her father?
Yeah.
Oh, then
Yeah.
she got it from
So we
him.
have the BRCA1 gene
Yeah,
mutation.
you're the
So for those of
BRCA1
you
gene. That's
who
right.
don't know
There it
what that
goes.
is,
Yeah.
it's a mutation where you have like a high chance of getting breast and ovarian cancer. So after my mom passed away, I got diagnosed with the BRCA1 gene mutation. So I had an 85% chance of getting breast cancer, 65 ovarian. So I opted in for the double
Yeah.
mastectomy at 28, and I removed both of my breasts, and that was a whole other grieving process that I went through with my health, losing,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I felt like I was losing the identity of being a woman. But it was honestly one of the most powerful things I've ever done, because it had me look at life in a totally different way. And I started public speaking, started a blog. I was meeting all these women all over the world that have the BRCA1 gene mutation that were my age, and I was 28. And so I was talking about how you can still be sexy without having breasts. And so that was the beginning of my journey. And then I was like, well, how can I do this for a living and make money? And so that's when I came across coaching. And so I've done, I mean, you name it. I've done Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, Gabby Bernstein, Landmark, all of these things. And what worked the best for me was the ontological coaching. So that's what I really started to study. And so what I did was I ended up being a grief coach at the beginning of my journey 10 years ago. And while I was helping women going through the grieving process, I saw that they needed to be with the pain and not just do something. Like a tool or breathing or whatever. So what it ontological is you're actually being with the pain. So I would speak with them, hold them in a place where they could process it, and so they could actually let that go and have freedom in their life. And so that's why I started doing the ontological coaching. And I still do it to this day, because it's all about the words people use. Because what's the abracadabra? The phrase abracadabra? It's
Yeah.
like the words that you say create your reality. So I'm very particular, and this is why I don't love to always be on camera when I'm coaching people, because I like to sit and listen to what they're saying, because what they say is so powerful. Anywho, so yeah, I did the grief coaching, and then I did spiritual business coaching for women as well. And then I moved into the sales aspect, as you know, Colleen. And I've been
Right.
working with Karen Coffee for the last like 6 years. And that's been super rewarding because I love her mission. And now I'm her master sales coach. But I also see myself coming back into the grief area as well, because I'm putting my book out there, and I love helping people through pain. And everybody's in pain too. Like, even on my
Yes,
sales calls, everybody has something that's not
they do.
working, right? And
Yeah.
so it's just holding that space so people can feel safe. and then come over to the other side and have that freedom and happiness they want in their life. And so that's why I
Yeah,
love
because
sales. When I say sales, I don't even like to say it's sales. It's like
no, I know
sales is
because sales has a
love.
connotation. Like, yeah, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Well, and I mean, as a coach, you're a coach, Colleen. Like, what I see in so many coaches is that they're such good coaches, but their biggest pain is finding clients or having that conversation initially to bring them over to the program. So that's why I love to do what I do because
Well,
it
nobody,
just, yeah.
yeah, everybody thinks they can do everything themselves, right? I did for years. I always thought I could do it myself, and then
Well,
just
no,
some of the
you
stuff you
can
can't.
help. I mean, I have a coach. I mean, I'm surrounded by coaches. Like, I'm not saying I'm the best coach in the world because, like, there's always a growing process. You just get better and better as you keep doing the work, you know.
Well, and I think a lot of people choose not to do the work, right? Especially when dealing with grief. If we stay on that vein, that it's like their it's their I don't know their thing to carry. What's the word I'm looking for? It all reverts back to, well, this happened. It's their crutch, right? It's there. And I think
Well,
I did
again,
that with Michael for a very long time.
well, and that goes back to the suffering state of being. How long do you want to stay in this suffering state of being? Like,
Well,
my mom
sometimes it's more
died.
comfortable.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes
Well, my
it's
mom
more
died
comfortable for a while,
when
right? I mean,
I could have stayed in this like, oh, I lost my mom, like poor me, da 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 da. But no, like I chose to change that. And of course I do. I fall into the suffering state of being all the time. But now I have the tool and how to process back into that beautiful state. And yeah, take your time going through that pain. There's nothing wrong with that. But then you make the choice to change and
and move
transition
on.
into the beautiful state.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden one day you do wake up and you say, "What the hell am I doing? This is crazy. I can't live like this anymore."
Yeah,
Something's got to shift, right?
right.
It's
Yeah. And breath
and when it
work
does,
is a
it's amazing.
beautiful breath work is also has helped me a lot throughout the years as well because we hold on to so much like, when you feel that pain in your throat like you're going to cry, like when
Yeah,
you're going through the grief and you do this breath work, it just so helpful. So I help my clients, use that as well.
I find that it's easier for me to cry over other people than myself, like especially dogs, because with all my rescue, I'm always dealing
Yes.
with these horrifying situations. And I mean, ultimately, I want to get one back here, so I got to put my hairdresser and his boyfriend in a house where they can house it, and he can stay home and take care of the dogs. But bring him out so we can, foster him and place him. And he's
Absolutely.
funny. He's saying that today. I think I can put the dog rescue here. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. Whatever you buy needs to be able to hold the rescue. So we'll work on that. But
Gosh. Well, I mean, you're a lot like me too, but I'm with cats. If it were up to me, I would have like 20 cats, but you can't.
I can't believe not one of them hasn't made it on video, especially the Chihuahua. He's always around. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
I think that this book is good. This book should take you to a different level, though.
Well, I'm really excited about it. It's very vulnerable. It talks about my story, but what I love most about it is that every chapter talks about how to grow through this. And then at the end of every chapter, there's a lesson or a journal prompt or a meditation, breathwork exercises, things like that. My goal is with this book to really help people go through this process and know that they're not alone. And so I'd love to create that safe and sacred space for these people. And I would love to start, public speaking and just helping others, making an impact. That's what we're all here for, right, Colleen? Like making an
That's what I
impact.
thought.
That's our
Yeah,
goal.
that's our
Like
goal. I know.
yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about it. And then my next one's going to be about women seeing their worth. I went through a very abusive relationship about 2.5 years ago. It was very painful, and I lost myself again. Again, a grieving process, and I had to take again 6 months off of work because if I can't help myself, I can't help others. And I want coaches to know that too. Like if you're going through something, take a pause. You don't need to always be on all the time. Like take a step
It's
back.
impossible to be on all the time.
Well, And the thing too, Colleen, as well, is we always tend to help others and not help ourselves as coaches. So, you know,
Well, and I'm going to
like,
say that the women's thing right now is huge because as we're reverting to 1940s here in this country, where everyone, women should be barefoot and pregnant and only taking care of the kids, not have jobs. We need women to say, I'm not dealing with that. Stop right there, sucker. I'm going into 2026 and I'm going loud and proud. It's like these young girls, girls, respect yourselves, go to school, take care of yourselves financially, and then you can find somebody that's
yeah,
worth it.
totally. Yes.
Because I don't know, not that I want to be male bashing here, but I think the quality of men out there has totally gone down the tubes as of late. Totally
Yeah.
gone down the tubes, and I think it starts at the top with POTUS there in his mouth and just, it's just disgusting and degrading. And I think, so if you see a man, well, I have some pretty vicious fights on Facebook with some of these men. And I'm always like, well, clearly we have a size issue and an ego issue because if you didn't have all that, you would actually be a real man.
No.
Now, what is a
Yeah.
real man? Somebody who respects people, somebody who respects and takes care
Yeah.
of his family.
Well,
That's just,
yeah. And after going through all my different relationships in the past, my first husband was a beautiful man. It just didn't work out. And then after that, I just have always had, and it's a pattern of mine. And I think the problem that I've had to work through and see for myself is that I've always wanted to be like the breadwinner in the relationship. So I've always kind of gone for men that were like, I don't think they were
beneath
good
you.
enough. They weren't good
No,
enough for me.
no.
And that's my own fault. I'm taking responsibility for that. And so I see it now that, man, that last relationship really woke me up. And I will not let a man ever treat me like that again. And no women should ever go through abuse. Verbal abuse just is just
Mental.
as like just it was totally like, and my mental health went, it was awful. Like I had to
Yeah, yeah.
actually start taking a pill for 6 months because I was like I was just living in anxiety being with this person, and I don't know how I let myself get like that. But now I will not let any man treat
Because you
me
don't
like
go
that.
into it overnight, Laura. You don't go into it overnight. I mean, they know what they're doing, right? So it's a slow process over time.
Narcissistic
Right.
behavior.
It's just a slow, I've been in that. It's a slow process over time. And all of a sudden, you like, then when you realize, it really wasn't you, but they told you it was you every chance they got, right? But when you realize it's not you, and then you're like, what the, like, how did I even get here? Well, we got
Oh,
here because one, we grew up in families that made that pretty easy to, right? I
mhm.
mean, when you're not given the tools as a kid, you don't bring those tools in as an adult. You have to learn those as we grow. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big problem too, right? So many women were just never given the tools.
Yeah. Well, I just remember looking at myself in the mirror the one day and I was like, what happened to you? Where's the strong woman that was there for 6 months
Yeah.
ago?
Because
And it
sometimes
was
it gets really tiring being strong all the time.
scary, Colleen. I was in a very dangerous place and I had to get a lot of people involved to help me get out of the situation. And now I have my strength back and I'm in a really nice relationship now, thank goodness. And it's funny, it's like I went for someone that's totally not my type and now I'm so happy. But like I've been going to these guys that it's just a terrible pattern and now I've changed the pattern. So everything's good now, but I just it breaks my heart to see women in pain.
Well, if this doesn't work out, just get a dog. I have three. Just
I
get a
have
dog.
two cats. Prince of Pace is my
Just get a
baby.
dog. They don't care. Anything you give them, they're happy. Get affection, they're happy. That's all they care about. They want to go out, they're good. Just get a dog. Just stay alone and get a dog. It's perfect.
So
Yeah, that's my mantra. Just get a dog.
yeah.
All right. So, Laura, thank you for being my first guest on my maiden voyage of Tough Talk and Transitions. So, I want to thank Laura, Amanda Kelly, for coming on today and be looking for her book, Growing Through Grief, out in the spring.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Colleen, for having me. It's
Appreciate it.
been such a pleasure and so much fun. And
Thanks.
yeah, we'll be
All
doing
right.
this
Talk
again
soon.
soon.